Have further national anthems being played. National anthem of the Czech Republic. Yeah, great to hear from Romain Iniesta. It was a late call-up for him. He's concentrated this year on racing in the European GT4 Championship with another former, so picked up the 4 extra bonus points for gaining the most places from his starting position to his finishing position. So he'll be hoping that he can have a solid race here from what will be 8th position on the grid. So you can see just how worrying the weather looks in the background there. It's been cloudy, it's been grey, we've had the rain, but it's just not shifting. The cloud cover has been his very much patriotic Swiss livery for this weekend, Giorgio Maggi. Just to give you the colours on row number 5 as well, it's largely white with a big orange number on the side. Andrea Nori, the Italian driver, alongside the largely white, it's got some lighter blue livery to it, which is this car that we're on board with now, I think, which is Luca Lestaire's for the 64 car. So on board, live on boards for the first time in Euro Nascar, and hopefully that partnership that we are looking to build will continue. It is a trial for this weekend. We can, I'm sure, bring you more details on the provider of that as and when the green light is given to enable me to do so. But it's great to have live onboards on trial for this weekend for the first time in the NASCAR Wheel in Euro Series, something that we've all been keeping our fingers crossed would happen for a period of time. So here we go, buckle up everybody, we're about to go green for the first time this weekend. We can have a look and see what is happening now. It looks as though, have we got a safety car out there? There's yellow flags flashing on track, and I think we might have possibly full course caution. It doesn't look like it the way that they're going at the moment. No, I think we're still racing. I still think we're green flag race, wet tyres, leading the way. Now there's no extra points for leading a lap. Points are 40 for a win, 35 for second, and 34 for third, and so on. Into the pit lane has finally come Mark Goossens. So even Mark Goossens, with all of his experiences, decided that slick tyres just aren't working anymore. Sebastian Bleekemolen, you can safety car here. He had built up the best part of an 8-second gap between himself and Gianmarco Ercoli. And you can see from our onboard camera of Mark Goossens, even at this reduced pace, just about the lack of visibility. But look at the standing water as well in places. Just look at the spray that's coming out the back of Nicola Rocca's car that lies ahead. And well, I did mention when Mark Goossens came into the pit lane that even with all of his experience, he knew the time was right to come in and pit from the slicks to the wets. And well, there's nothing like experience, because Mark Goossens now is running in 4th position at the wheel of the number 7 Chevy, top 4 at the moment. Leading Ford is down in 6th position, which is Vittorio Gorelli's Ford Mustang. Lights are still on the safety car. Should see them extinguished any moment now, and then it will be up to Alan Day as to when he wants to get the race back underway. Edwards Autodrome Most, we've got 2 races to come at Autodrome Grobnik in Croatia, the 2 races to come at Circuit Zolder in Belgium, all as part of the regular season for this year. And then our championship finals, the double points finals, will be the number 7. That is the number 88 Monster Energy backed car, the Chevy, in the hands of the most winningest driver in the championship, which is Alan Day. And live onboards this weekend, I'm delighted to say, Mark Goossens is trying out one of our live onboard cameras on board the DF1 Racing number 77 Chevy, in the hands of the hugely experienced driver who's raced lots in IMSA racing over in America. He's raced in Le Mans in the past. His single-seater career brought him through the likes of Formula Ford, where he was the Formula Ford Festival winner back at Brands Hatch in 1991. Moved on to Formula 3 and Formula 3000, Mark Goossens. So hugely, hugely experienced driver, and is one to be reckoned with in Euro NASCAR Pro as well. Finished 5th in the championship standings last year, Mark Goossens. Romain Iniesta pushing hard on his next qualifying lap as we go on board with Mark Goossens on board the number 77 DF1 Racing Chevy. Using all of the curbs as he's just heading out to the final corner, looking to try and move up from 4th quickest. Back on board with Mark Goossens. Great shots from these live onboard cameras that we're receiving over the course of this weekend, and Mark is going to dive for the pit lane. As the drivers have swapped for the Control Hoosier slick tyre that they all have available to them, or whether they're all still running on the Control wet tyre. Certainly his hands up to a degree that it was his mistake, came in and just missed his pit box, and those split seconds just to get him back into his pit position before then just the two people allowed to work on the cars was the briefing, was what cost him time. You can see we've got fantastic onboard cameras for the first time this weekend. On board the number 77 car, which is Mark Goossens, and on board the car of Luca Lasser in this race. Luca driving the number 64 Speedhouse Ford that we are hoping to see some action from throughout the course of the race. Now, this is a new system that we are trialling for this weekend. Thanks to Sam Tahiri, himself a former NASCAR racer, for introducing this technology to us for this weekend. And let's hope that we can continue with it in the future, because they've certainly provided some great action. It looks as though Dodd in Israel, who claimed his first NASCAR win in September of 2015 and his last one just yesterday. This is one of our onboard camera cars for this weekend. Luca Lasser. Luca, a two-times former champion, won this championship back in 2009 and 2010. We're getting some great onboard views from those cameras, and in this race, hopefully from that angle, particularly as we're looking at the driver, we'll be able to see exactly how hard the 42-year-old Frenchman is going to be working behind the wheel of his car to try and wrestle it around this 2.624 mile or 4.2 kilometre track. It fired up, but most of the grid now has largely been cleared. Here is the onboard cameras again that we're looking at. This is out of the roof, really, of what Mark Goossens sees on board the number 77 DF1 Racing Chevrolet. And there's Luca Lasser. We look across at Luca just sitting patiently behind the wheel. The 77 will start on the 9th row of the grid. Luca Lasser will start further up on what's up the 5th row of the grid. This is what he will be seeing out of his windscreen. And you can see that whilst it's been cloudy all weekend, there is a...
Drivers, start your engine.
There we go. So the instruction is given by our Grand Marshal. The engines are fired into life. What is that one, I would think? Now, yeah, final. Thank you, and look for the team member, the formation. They should stay in that formation until they get over the start-finish line. You can't break from the line. You can accelerate, but you can't break from the line until you've got over the start-finish line. So just because the lights go out, you can't jink out of position. You have to stay in that line until you've crossed the start line, and then you can start to try and progress your way through the order. And I think there was one driver yesterday that couple of rounds of the NASCAR Wheeling Euro Series last year into the pit lane with puncture has come Mark Goossens, so that's why I didn't see that car continuing to circulate. And also Patrick Lamely, I think I saw in the pit lane as well. So the DF1 pit crew having to go to work so as to replace the punctured tyre on Mark Goossens. Off comes the old one, on gets bolted a new one. And if they could service this quickly, it could keep him on the lead lap, and that could be hugely important potentially for a man who finished on the podium yesterday, 3rd overall for Mark Goossens, his best result of the season. Enormously frustrating for him, but them's the rules, as they say. As we go on board looking at Luca Lasser, who is 5th on the road at the moment, and did pick up the budget together that she can. It would just be good to see a little bit more of her, because she's a very accomplished driver. So we look at the onboard of Mark Goossens. We're looking at the tail end of Michaela Dorsakova's Academy Motorsport, Alex Campion. Number 22 of Nicola Rocca not going particularly well. He's further down the grid than you would expect him. Team will be chatting to him about as well. Great onboard camera car here as we look at Luca Lasser, who is absolutely on the rear bumper of Giorgio Maggi. So this is 6th place, trying to hunt down the 5th place car in the hands of the Swiss driver that lies ahead. He'll want another solid finish, really. Finished 7th yesterday. It's on for 5th today for Giorgio Maggi. Well, that would still be even. 5th place would be his 2nd best result of the season. He finished 4th at Brands. Maggi in this re-liveried car weekend has not had a podium so far this season. You can see the Swiss flag proudly carried on the bonnet. It's almost been bump drafted by the double former champion Luca Lasser. As we ride on board with Luca Lasser, look at the work that's going in on the wheel, on the hands of the car. Luca Lasser, as we look across at the cockpit view of the driver. Working hard, Luca Lasser, almost into the tail end of Giorgio Maggi of Gianmarco Ercoli, the battered Cal car. But no matter what Luca Lasser does, for the moment, Giorgio Maggi has an answer to it. What is Luca Lasser going to do? He's got huge amounts of experience. Luca is, 42 years of age nowadays. Whereas with Giorgio Maggi, he's still in his early 20s. He's 23 as Giorgio Maggi, as we go back on board Luca Lasser, still trying to hunt down his best result of the season. But for the moment, he's there in 6th. Sister car with our onboard camera. Mark Goosens on the coattails of Nicola Rocca. Both of those cars being run by DF1 Racing. So those are teammates now fighting away for 11th once he finishes in 10th position. We'll run you fully down through the order in a short while once the cars head back in towards pit lane. But great to have these onboard shots for this weekend. Luca Lasser now just loosening off the belts a little bit, needs to keep them on until he gets to the pit lane, but just loosen them off very, very slightly now that you are at reduced speed. But for Garelli, he will be so pleased with that. He was lying 4th in the champs of Gianmarco Ercoli, the likes of Tomo Ferrando, who have also claimed wins at the top flight, and Vittorio Garelli can now, and Stinis Longines as well, I ought to say, and now Vittorio Garelli can join that list of former Euro NASCAR 2 champions that have now also gone to victory lane in Euro NASCAR Pro, the top flight. He'll be chuffed with that. Great to have those onboard pictures as well, the live onboards for this weekend, something new that we are trialling. Massive amount of thanks to Jerome Galpin and Gianluca Giulia for the agreeing that we can have those. I know we've been looking for them for a good period of time. It is still a trial still, but without the assistance of Sam Tahiri, it wouldn't have happened, and we do hope that we can see more of those throughout the course of this season, and of course improve them. We always look to try and move forward in the NASCAR Wheeling Euro Series, and we'll look to do that. Big old handshake there. I think that was Roy Hendricks that was coming in to shake the hand of Vittorio Garelli. So yeah, sensible thinking, and also interesting to hear what we heard from that car there, from Francesco Garisto, talking about his car is set up to come on strong later on in the race. Now that probably means that they have set up the tyre pressures so that they're going to peak later on in the race, and he knows the performance of the car isn't going to be there at the start, but he's just got to make sure that he keeps the car towards the sharp end of the field, knowing that if he can hold up quicker cars behind him in the early stages, the race will come to him. The race will come to him, and he just needs to stay out of trouble, keep calm, and know the fact that whilst you might struggle in the early, vacating the grid. Great to have live onboards this weekend as well. That is Luca Lasser, who will drive that car in Euro NASCAR Pro. The driver behind the wheel now is Eric Quintal. It's the number 64 car that starts towards the tail end of the field. Final team members there, and those famous words in NASCAR about to be mentioned any moment now. Well, it's a mechanical sequential, it's not an electronic sequential. So the final few team members just leaving the grid, and cars will very shortly be heading off on their formation lap. Remember, this grid is based on the fastest lap times that were set in yesterday's race. It gives us the grid for today. So if you had a poor race yesterday or got entangled up in incidents early on, you'll be towards the back of the grid, and that's exactly what happened for the likes of Nave Talor and Vladimir Choitzis, and poor old Tom Krasina starts off the back. He didn't even start yesterday's race, the Greek driver. So I think the green flag is about to be waved any second now, and then we will run you through the way that they will line up on this grid as they head off for their final formation lap around this 4.21 kilometre circuit. Tobias Dauenhauer is to the left of our screen. To the right of our screen is Pierluigi Veronese, who set a really good lap time in the race yesterday, Pierluigi Veronese, and that's what sees him so far up on the grid. He only finished, though, 11th in the race, but managed to squeeze in a good lap time. So green flag at the tail end of the field, and we're about to see the cars off on their final formation lap, just trying to build those last little bit of temperature into the Control Hoosier slick tyres that they will all now be running. Come start, I noticed, for Advite Yoda, the number 56. Let's guide you then through the grid for round 6 of the championship as they head off on their formation lap. On pole position, it is number 50, or didn't compete last year. The other wins this season, by the way, 2 to Martin Dubeck, who starts 4th on the grid, and 1 to Advite Deodar. His first ever career win came at Brands Hatch, the first Indian ever to go to the top step of the podium in victory lane in a NASCAR race. So this is number 77, Gilles Linster, the driver from Luxembourg, returning to the championship, as I say, weaving from side to side to try and get as much temperature into those Control Hoosier tyres as he can. The 27-year-old Luxembourger, karting champion. But it's good to see Nave back in the series. Eric Quintal we ride on board with. You can just have a look at exactly what's going on inside the cockpit, and this is the view that we get from our other live onboard camera car. This is Gilles Linster, really amongst the battle there. He is in 9th position. Cars attack on here and hang on to that 4th position. We're back on board with Gilles Linster. Good shot from our live onboard camera cars. This is the view that we get from Eric Quintal's car, the 2 cars that are carrying our trial of live onboard cameras for this weekend. Now, Tobias Downhauer is 5.5 Kolovsky. Remember, he was leading the Legend Trophy Championship standings. Go back on board with Eric Quintal. On board the Speedhouse number 64 car. He and Eric Vardy, you can see the tail end of the car there just start to break away as he fed the throttle in. The tail end of the 44 broke away. We go back on board with Eric Quintal, working hard at the wheel of the Speedhouse number 64. Shifting down through the gears there as he heads in towards the braking area. Make sure that you get... Oh, Justin Coots a little bit wide there. That was coming out of turn number 8 on track. Now, this is Alberto Panabianco fighting away with Miguel Gomez. So, despite being attacked by the out-of-control Yevgen Sokolovsky, the 2 of them are still squabbling away. As we go back on board with Eric Quintal. Fantastic shots, actually. Both the camera on the roof and the inside camera as well, both giving us live coverage at exactly the same time. Nice to see that in Euro Nascar this weekend. Hopefully we can do the deal and make that happen. And something that we've been hoping to bring you for quite some time. Tobias Downhauer now 8 seconds up the road. This is still the fight for the final place inside the top 10. Victory lane with our winning driver, but for Tobias Downhauer there'll be a big old smile on his face. A big smile, I'm sure, on Eric Quintal's face as well, because he kept himself out of trouble, Eric, and finished 13th in the end at the wheel of the car that started off the back of the grid. But this man here, Gilles Linster, will be even happier. Return to the series for the first time in a couple of years. Number 77 finishes 5th in that race on 2 onboard camera cars. So, Francesco Garisto driving alongside the race winner, Tobias Downhauer, as they head, because it means that you are highly likely to become a champion if you look back through the history books, and highly likely then to graduate and have a good run in Euro Nascar Pro, the top division. Gilles Linster back into the pit lane. His father Armand there just giving him a quick round of applause as he pulled the car into the pit lane area. But for Vittorio Gorelli, who will take over this car, good omen for him, really.